Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? Good. I'm actually a little nervous. This is the first reading I've done in 8 years. I didn't even do a reading for my last book. Just didn't want to. I didn't feel like it. I was way too anxious for not long, just like, I don't know, like 5 years, something like that. I'm going to read one poem, but it's a long one. It's a long boy. And it's the third quarter of the book, and it's in which we find a narrator. It's the sort of denouement of his infatuation with Vaslav Nijinsky and mine. He's an art critic. He's been witnessing him from afar, never actually met him. And I'm just giving you a little bit of background. So this is set at the premiere of The Rite of Spring in 1913 that Nijinsky choreographed but didn't dance in. And at the premiere of The Rite of Spring by Stravinsky, there was actually a riot, like a full-on riot, people screaming at the stage, rumors of a fire, all of that stuff. And it was like a perfect storm of the dissonance and the modernism of Stravinsky's music, and Nijinsky's choreography was brutal and undid everything that you think about ballet, and it was very primitive. Even the Théâtre des Champs-Élysées, where it premiered, where the architect, it was a relatively new building, the architect was a Jewish man, and the criticisms of it were, it's too tonic, it's great for a post office, it's a great building for a post office, but it's not very Parisian, which was a nice way to say it's too Jewish. But it's not like there was menorahs everywhere, you know what I mean? Like, and the impresario of the ballet, Sergei Diaghilev, was having an affair with Vaslav Nijinsky at the time, so there was a lot of homophobia, and it was just all this stuff going on. And all of this came to a head at the premiere of The Rite of Spring. So our narrator has arrived, hoping to just catch a glimpse of Nijinsky, and decided this would be a really good time for him to have that nervous breakdown he's been putting up for such a long time. So here we go. 3 snorting beasts, minor royals, I'm told, scream tagel at the stage, actually scream. And I wonder, whatever happened to a quiet life? All my tomorrows on peeling window panes, crickets shucking from a wet bag of cocaine, a reliable job, visiting friends on the coast, and the sound of absolutely nothing. If I gunfight myself over what mutation of love was the hardest of all, what flavour of hope was the sourest, with gossamer networks hanging over my head, weaving out big thoughts, breeding and hatching in bed early morning, 4 down, arachnid, 6 letters, and I smack them on the back of Lepoc with Kandinsky, then I'm doing so alone, and that's mine and it's private. Romance and lampshades, a good cruet set. The decency of dead legs, calmer than heartache. This mass-produced bamboo screen with a few minor crudités, added so my mother cannot separate it from handiwork. That's an appropriate life at my age. Something proper about killing spiders with newspapers, but I have wondered that hypothetically, our ornament would be asymmetrical, principally floral, incongruous with such gorgeous motifs. Did you ever read what I wrote when I called you a flick knife? I meant the 2 of us in bed, your mother on the line, asking if you'll give her exactly 3 grandsons. And if I've learned anything from my trip to the moon, it's that watching the earth rise in the distance is more exhausting than not. I'll tell her my sister wants to carry your brood if you'll tell me I'll die with a vivid fray around me, lucent and sore, muted by sundown, a thick, heavy sleep, a cold pillow, a secret and dirty and ugly new habit, having bricks in my bed, having love for those bricks. A duchess next, spinning her pearls round her neck with the frenzy of a dog trying to bite its own tail, and she catches them in the air like dandelion clocks and hurls them at the stage in the hope that the dancers will trip and die, actually die. Be my true crime, darling, passed out on the lawn. Wherever we'll go in an hour doesn't matter, because please, I'll be driving you into the ground in the mud slightly heaving with the tiny lives in it. I'd die to take you once on the duck down, kill to have you twice over the bidet. Then you get shot to death in the bathtub. I paint it, and now I'm a famous lover of all people, and I'm loved by all people. Now I'm a silk hand fan. Now I'm nude descending the staircase twice. Now I'm the Archbishop of Lyon. The doctor tips out his Gladstone bag in the stalls and stamps his stethoscope and rectal thermometer to death. The crack, the noise alone, is enough to feed our beasts. I'll say, the bloomy flower water wants changing. Please take my boots from the corridor for polishing. You'll skip to those tones of submissive companionship. Something to copyright. Imagine my teacup and your teacup, both chipped a little bit. I have great discipline to weave a Heppel white chair, such as the one that I bought you if you noticed in the hall. And I will learn to thaw you out in it. Tie your wrists to it, glad arms bowing outward in infinite recursion, as burglars break in through the window and lacerate their necks. I love comedy. I love smoking. I love drinking in the morning. I read Freud last night because I had that dream again. A bicycle flying over Paris, a hierophant, a fruit bowl with nothing but lychee and lime. A fine trip for Madeline's, but now we're all wet. How cyanide smells of marzipan and gypsum weed of licorice. Then we both die eating pralines at the house of Chanel like it was nothing. It turns out there's a fantasy in me and it's at least a little bit charitable. I've been waiting to see you forever, to be sitting extremely upright in these seats, these red velvet seats. I've been desperately in need to be sat up and redly, nerveless as a catcall, impervious as a crocodile, a firebird psychedelia in the thick of my hip where my bone marrow lives. If you need it someday, I don't know if you'll get cancer, but my liver too is waiting. I expect the rioting aristocrats think mythology and the mystic ideal are defeated at last, but with all their scarves and handkerchiefs wagging in the air, a centaur could plausibly bust out from the wings. I note overcrowded, fussy, Baroque elaborations. You undertow my repression, field what's novel about my wristwatch, indistinguishable from Europe, indistinguishable from portraiture. The fascinating part of my breakdown is its weekday nature, a sort of kidney dish on a nightstand, cease of tradition and power. It wants you to feel unsettled. I want you to lean on my lot. You are my first augury of budgerigars and sirens, and I'd forgive you for disregarding me as fear, just about. There's a silk rose petal in my pocket, sweet boy. Apparently I'm a thief as well as everything else. I was there when you came on the nymph scarf that night. A 12-minute affair and you spent one of them ejaculating. If a tree looks yellow to me, then it's a yellow tree. If our faces clash, then it's not an unfaithful impression. You taught me a tennis ball can lead to a threesome in jeu. Petrushka was a sorbet post, a culminating sunset, fists clenched, depicting the basket. If a tree looks yellow to me, then I shouldn't have to see it as anything, but I'm not forcing the issue down the Avenue Montaigne, not going to go on about how I see the shadow of death in the shape of all hat stands these days. Staying with my great aunt for the next several wars, the height of fashion, a treaty, an eye cut in two. I am not God, but the world has been created by God. I am not flesh, but I have flesh in my heart. Hang on, have you seen this? I like to present interesting things, and I have for a while, but you'll learn this of me. So look here for a second. This alley of beautiful boutiques, these reinforced steel beams, these very thin walls, the big window of the soul. There are friezes, curving balconies, a Vaslav every other seat. Divisions into boxes, but where's the orchestra? I can't see the orchestra. Just a mystical gulf between me and you, between me and the rights. Just face up to it like I've had to. That we are living in a Jewish Zeppelin tonight. All too German, much too tonic. Great for a post office, but in no way Parisian. It doesn't have to ruin my evening. I'll just move like a block on top of a block on top of a block. In uptight arousal. These jerking, jolting rhythms will be called derivatives someday, but that bassoon being strangled is so exposing and high. How obscene to rip the sinew from a Latvian wedding march. I never thought I'd watch a fortune teller start a fist fight with a duchess. I've never heard a screech so well received until tonight. Wind like this seems a violent sort of courage. Bravery eternal, an omnipresent hymn. Capturing and breaking down the bullying electricity of space, a new life in attack, shivery, insomnia, mortal leaps. The poet will sit as a corpse and nobody notices. I hate the absolute. I hate the earth. I hate crooked lines, thoughtful movements. I hate beautiful ideas and our own inner libraries. polyphonic tides about great bunkers underground, the work that by riots is worth dying time. Just now, the whole orchestra got beat like a drum because it bent down to me and said, "Thank you, Vaslav." A small set of binoculars just about misses my head. And that couldn't possibly be a fire I smell, is it? Or is it? Imagine how funny it would be if I burned to death in my seat for refusing to leave. I'm already seeing our lives before our eyes. Every grace and explosion of mysterious doors, blazing with war. A circle of cars, ancient feelings, apes but resembling smoke-plumed serpents, multicolored speed, mimicry gymnasts, brides over moons, exalted new beauties, Nijinsky, 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 my atmosphere, planes as patriotism, essential militant beauty, and we enthusiastic must spend the accidental, leafing through our feelings with utilitarian cowardice. Up along the way, just on my sleep, you toss your spirit astride me inward, flights of thoughts. I will adorn you with principles because I have sung this entire period. Offer me, please, your sympathy. Apologize to me about this, the revolution, about primordial magnificence, that dance can lead to danger and danger leads to sculpture and all sculptures are masterpieces and that you have made hooves from classical artistic virtue on point, Vaslav. Knock-kneed Lolitas jumping up and down. We don't always have to be true to the natural world. So if you turn to me flatly, all elements of depth disemployed in the service of your role, if you have to, then I shall still be ritually devoted to your terms. But if I threaten to leave the hall and take my spleen with me, spew my woolly inwards outwards like knitwear on the fang masks of the folksy archaical art in unstoppable accretion, you have left me with soft eyelashes, bruised wrists, living in the frayed knots drawer of my childhood home. Rich oriental scarves now ripped up and sulking. Over there, a mother comforts her crying adult son. The very best of us is ugly and lumpen. The very best of us all is inhuman and mechanical. I wish we could be ringing in its prime key from right to left in ochre drapes, marionettes in opera boxes, celluloid dissociated, my fingernails clacking together like cockles trying to kiss, and severance of time and all hours that are bronze. I will cast this net of intent in secret from my eyes, and maybe they'll all slip and slide and tumble like I should slip and mill about. They're all fractal patterns on the walls now, fractional holes on the floor now, factorial and wholesome, my factions of prose, origins and termini, opera lights through eyelids look like spheres of afterbirth. A rolling timpani snaps off and I have now hired it as kindling. And you are liquid with me and I am all around contusions of your resurrection. Thoughts are blooming out on the jute cloth wrapped around her ankle, screaming, wide awake and screaming just like we all are, baby Vaslav, beneath the blinding ocean where we oxidize to sharp confetti. A rusting bus and you there at the wheel, because hell is a shy machine, a scarlet racket, a topical drug, a revolutionary culprit, a wide cylinder, a countryside satellite, a vice trumpet, an antique lips and cheek, if you like, a clock with no arms, they call it a swastika, and hell is a delirious silver monolith. The dancers and their sweet raging wrists, tongues like strawberries and every voice a road, in a conspiratorial traffic as you're, a trash can of small and then even smaller levers, cantilevering down. I want to leave, or hang about like a heavy French perfume where God will mooch around in suede and silk-lined shoes. Oh, lick the blooming snowdrop like a continental ice cream. An engine lowered from the sun in one whole basket kept intact, coughing near an assassinated king and queen, moderately tearful, investing in oxygen. My prevalence like liquor, spoiled apples, an appendix. This purge is not gibberish. I am a cult ashamed for being one. But you, a glossy firework, hilarious abuse, a detective in a chamber, a post-tennis handjob. And from what I see is what I know, and what I know to see is this. Vaslav Nijinsky, covetous as truss, repelling thunderstorms and noxious bioluminescent, fuming milk-white bouquets of stagnant luxuries, squealing essences of abominations, of Neptunian frosts and winter-boundly smacking sights, of peculiar hyacinthine stars overheating and crackling, metallic, graceful, and only a little bland. He is the dry cello over the velvet peneplains and quiet saffrons on the eyelashes of giants both livid and fluffy, savoury, acidic. He is a crying pulsar, a sickly dejectedness, agonizingly padded, like thrum, 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 and the black insides of a kick drum, as undivided as petrification. The icy flavors at a minimum, an oceanic trench and white cratered landscapes, the upper tangent arcs and ecstatic silences, palpable grief, delightful sooty black notes and the glitter. Please the agony, please the machine in me, the machine of me, and history like a dull thick burnet, and history like a serrated antipathy. My solar plexus is combusting, so apologize to me. I mean, I'm sorry, I really am. I do not even know what words mean, so how can I pass judgment? Let the postscript rot below, let nothing else survive. Oh world, oh music, oh art, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh fuck. I wish I could die in the lung of this fucking thing. Die speculative. I could die too clear and too clean, painlessly indefinite. I wish I could die factory made, die a Democrat, die an irrelevant promotion of myself, die word-bound like a clever animal, incessantly hostile, die functionally, die logically, die automated, die a landscape, die an auxiliary, die dispensable. I wish I could die lacking a tongue, die at first sight unnerving, die indexed, die a surface, die a curlicue, die a syndrome, die ascetic, a measure of merit in every death I died, die therefore my own, die in 17 minutes. Die cheaply and carelessly, die gaudy and extreme. I wish I could die a mismatch of reason, die empirical fact, die naked and difficult, die in Salzburg, die in Warsaw, die in Oslo. I wish I could die running, die static, die a hermit, die a lover, die a mirror, die a futurist, die like a large glass, a glimpse into hell, but no. The consecration of spring, a failure. Has to turn up lights. Manager of theatre takes means to stop hostile demonstrations as dance goes on. It took all the space I could turn on, all the protein of a violently subdued thought. What exactly is contingent? What is one half of what? Too late. I've seen you now. Howling by numbers, urgent staccato, yelping restrained, yanked by the coattails on your wooden plinth. A picture of pagan boyhood, the divine masculine from 2 feet above. Tears in your eyes as she dances herself to death. A single chord kills her. The unparalleled tension of musical language. We have all danced things we have wanted to kill. I was unprepared for the explosion. I left the hall in a rage. Life is communal and depersonalised.